I found the photo booth strip at 4:07 a.m. The third face wasn't mine. I'm not jealous of bodies, I'm jealous of souvenirs. Bodies tell the truth if you stop staging them. Souvenirs choose which truth gets to come home. At 4:07 a.m., I shook Leo's coat over the arm of the couch, and a narrow white ribbon fell from the pocket, bounced once against the rug, and lay there like a receipt for something I couldn't return. 4 small squares, glossy, the kind of photo booth that prints you in duplicate so you can pretend the first proof didn't count. In the first, Leo alone, mouth open mid-laugh, a smear of confetti near his eyebrow. In the second, Leo and a man leaning in, the angle coy and unmistakable. In the third, the man's cheek against Leo's mouth, the sort of kiss you give when you want the camera to wear the blame. In the fourth, just hands tangled, no faces, intimacy reduced to topography. It wasn't my cheek, it wasn't my hand. The date in tiny letters at the bottom was last night's, just before the charity gala clicked from speeches into dimmer lights and worse decisions. The gala had a photo booth at the end of the bar that likes to call itself a lounge. I watched donors form lines to make their memories purchasable. I watched Leo drift in a slow orbit around the stage, nodding at chairs, checking on sound. He had texted me at 9, "Grab a table, I'm doing the rounds." I grabbed one. He did the rounds. Somewhere between the auction for a mural the city didn't ask for and the dessert that pretended to be a sculpture, he found that booth and a man with a mouth that belongs in proof. Leo had texted at 1:12, "Board wants nightcap. Don't wait up." That's the sentence men use when the rest of the night has applied for a later name. I did what I always do when the room feels like it has learned a story without me. I set the kettle on the flame because water doesn't audition. I wiped the counter the way people in movies do when they need their hands to be busy enough not to indict their eyes. At 3:29 the lock cleared its throat and Leo stepped in with the careful posture of a man who knows he has a scene partner he hasn't apologized to yet. He kissed the air near my cheek, our administrative truce, and said, "God, I'm loud," as if volume were the sin that needed forgiving. I didn't see the strip then. I found it after he fell asleep sideways on our bed, jacket half off, cufflinks in his pocket like coins he didn't trust to stay in the world. I picked up the ribbon from the floor and carried it to the kitchen because I wanted light to collaborate with anger. The second square was the one that landed first, the shot where the man is mostly silhouette and the back of Leo's neck gives itself away. The third shot is worse because its tenderness is stupid and believable. I put it face down on the table, then face up, because indecision likes to prove it showed up for work. I'm not a detective. I edit sound for documentaries where people practice being honest long enough that you forget what the first lie was for. If you give me a lie, I don't know where to put the echo. I texted Matt at noon because that's what I do when proof insists on being small and complete. "Lunch," I wrote. "I have 4 square reasons to be unkind." He sent a time and his old liturgy, one question only. At the bar with the napkins brave enough to be linen, I slid him the strip in my palm like contraband. He didn't flinch. "Ask why," he said when I told him about the gala and the booth and the nightcap that rhymed with cheat. "Or ask who, not both. If you ask who, you let the camera direct the scene." At home, I moved the kitchen chair into the middle of the room because our therapist believes ridiculous geometry saves lives. The chair makes the body decide it has to be elsewhere than usual, which coaxes the mouth into admitting it has arrived late to the truth. Leo came in at 6 with a bag of pastries. He didn't remember promising and smiled at the chair like a man relieved to be caught gently. He placed both palms flat on the table the way he was taught when he wanted to give words somewhere to land. "Which question?" he asked. "Why?" I said, and put the strip down between us. Face up now because the hour had applied for that job, and I was done being polite. Because the part wasn't coming, he said. He looked at the spot on the wall where the paint keeps wanting to retire without ceremony. Because the speeches were long and the money was louder, and the board asked me to be charming, and I wanted to be rude to somebody who would like it. Because Ezra, names are useful when you need your blood to do math, was there to coach the kiss in Act 2, and the director wanted us to practice before donors remembered they had homes. Because he leaned in the way gravity does when it believes it deserves a credit. Ezra, I repeated. He'd been around the show for a month, the intimacy director with the wrists of a man used to moving people like good furniture. We had eaten dinner with him once when the theater paid, and he had laughed like a coin landing heads. He liked to say, "eyes first," which is a sentence that ruins how you look at a room. "Did you kiss him?" I asked, breaking Matt's rule because superstition bores me when a picture is this smug. "Yes," he said, and his mouth made the shape I always collect for truth. "In the booth, twice. Once for the director who wants everyone to say rehearsal louder. Once because the camera smiled and I am not better than that. Not in a hallway, not in an elevator, not in a room that thought it could charge us for the air." "I hate how sane that sounds," I said, which is my default for mercy I haven't earned yet. He reached across the table, hands slow, fingers spare, and paused until my mouth collected itself. I let him touch my wrist because it's where I keep the part of me that believes in where we live. We added a line to the paper under the rubber orange magnet on the fridge because paper sometimes does what religion only advertises. If a camera wants our mouths, it learns both our names or none. Leo wrote it in his careful mess. I underlined it like a man who believes ink can be heavy if you insist. The next evening I didn't go to rehearsal because I don't need to watch good men pay rent to the scene. I made dinner with the humiliating care of someone who wants a reward for chopping an onion cleanly. Leo came home at 10 and tasted the sauce off my finger, slow, eyes first, the way he knows better than to do when he needs a favor. We kissed in the doorway like a room choosing to be itself. His thumb found the place under my jaw where sentences pause and let breath do the diplomacy. We didn't go to bed right away. We did not perform a ceremony. We used hands and mouths like the tools they keep pretending to be. If I could give you the rest without losing our lease on a platform that prefers a censored kind of accuracy, I would. Take a mouth on a shoulder, a palm at a wrist with permission, a shirt that solves itself, a breath that stops practicing and starts believing. Sometimes sex is forgiveness rehearsed with enough ambition that it remembers the point. 2 nights later, Ezra appeared at the back of the house during the run and watched with his arms crossed like a man at an art opening who knows which painting should have had more blue. After the curtain, he found us in the lobby. He kissed my cheek the way Europeans who have lived here too long pretend to be local. He shook my hand because that's how you test the part of your spine that keeps score. "You did the kiss better tonight," he said to Leo, then to me. "You do stillness like a phrase." He smelled like lime and schedule. He didn't mention the booth. Neither did we. Of course the world likes quizzes. At 1:12 a.m. 3 days later, our apartment became a room with too much air. The door cleared its throat and Leo came in with Ezra half a step behind, both of them talking like men who want the hallway to think it was invited. Ezra stopped on the threshold and raised his hands, fingers open, a gentleman at a robbery. "Staging problem," he said, which might be the funniest sentence on a night like that. We needed to try a beat. Without the room that believes it invented the answer. My mouth produced 2 options, leave, stay, and dropped both at his feet. Leo looked at me and did the only brave thing men like us are really good at. He touched my face in front of the witness and waited for the witness to forgive him. I did what I always do when words want a riot. I moved the chair to the center of the kitchen and sat down and let my body agree the scene had changed. Ezra stood just inside the door, an unoccupied idea. I said, "Eyes first," because I am a petty man on schedule, and Leo obeyed, and then we kissed in the kitchen like people who own the set. We didn't invite Ezra in. We didn't exclude him out. He watched one clean kiss, nodded like a director who knows he will be quoted, and left because good predators prefer to be elegant. Leo leaned his forehead against my temple, and I let his breath apologize for his mouth so his mouth could be useful later. We went to bed. We did what men do who still prefer heat to cleverness. I fell asleep with his hand at my sternum like a paperweight keeping the worst drafts from escaping. The next morning, I filmed the coffee at 7:05 because the kettle insists on singing even when no one deserves applause. I wrote here in the caption because words need addresses. Leo slid his hand into the frame and pressed his palm to mine without touching. "Here," he said. He ate toast like a man grateful for a noun that doesn't ask to be sold. A week later, the theater sent an email with kind fonts and an attachment that promised 7 days in the mountains for final notes and good light. Leo forwarded it without trimming any map. "I want to go without disappearing," he wrote. "I'll send pages, not alibis. When I get back, ask me what I wrote before you ask me what I did." I taped 2 short lines under the orange magnet. Addresses in the open. A good night here voice note every day. He added one in smaller script, almost shy. "If an I can't is coming, it happens where both of us are." When he was gone, Ezra sent a text that tasted like a coin. "He loves you," it said. "I like being near that. I'm sorry my job uses the same verbs as desire." I typed a paragraph and then another and then nothing, sometimes the kindest verb. Leo's first night voice note sounded like a room pretending to be a forest. "Today the table forgave me," he said. On the third night the phone stayed dark and the app tried to seduce me into becoming a version of myself I know too well. I moved the chair instead, and breathed like a man doing enough. He came back with a suitcase that didn't slam and 2 pages he treated like animals. "They're not good," he said. "They're mine," I said, and we performed the ceremony we're allowed. We held the pages together and listened for the sentences we'd teach a stranger to memorize. We slept in a room that felt like it had been waiting to be a room again. The strip still lives in a drawer near the radiator with the other relics that taught us how to read a night for what it actually said. Sometimes I take it out and let the squares cool my palm. The third frame, mouth to cheek, camera complicit, has lost some of its power in the way photographs do when you make them finish the job they started. The fourth, hands, no faces, still asks a question that cameras like to pretend they invented. I put it back in the dark because it's less dangerous there, and because I am tired of practicing the part of myself that only knows how to look. If another night offers us a booth with good lighting and worse instincts, or a gala that believes money is a verb, or a director who thinks honesty is a chore to be outsourced, I hope I remember the handful of humiliating, useful acts that got us through this one. Put water on. Move the chair. Ask why before who. Hold the instant before contact and let it finish being a scene. Then wait for the lock's small throat clearing like it's the first note in a song I can tune to. Let the city keep its printed souvenirs and its chandeliers that want to be moons. We'll keep being the address, or at worst the map that admits its misprints and still shows you a path back to where 2 mugs wait, and the orange magnet does its silly miracle of holding paper, as if paper could save men.